Welcome to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's secretly a friendship podcast. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by the entire My Mythical Meta crew. My brother Benjamin.
Hello.
Derek.
It's that boy.
And Randy.
Hey now.
Everyone is here. We are continuing the summer of hot takes. Sizzle.
Yeah, that's
The
right.
Summer of hot takes continues.
Sell the sizzle, not the takes.
What was that?
It was Duke yawning right next to me. Yeah, my dogs are in the room again this week. We are continuing the summer of hot takes this week. Make sure, listener, to click subscribe and slam that bell icon. You do not want to miss the scalding, piping discussions that are coming down the summer pipeline.
Seething.
Yeah, we are getting a backlog of really heated conversations going so that while Randy and I are in Japan, you are still going to have a podcast to listen to throughout the summer, even while we're gone on vacation. And it is full of these hot takes and the new solo News from the Warfront episodes. We have got a shout out today to our patron, Becky.
Yay, Becky.
Becky, thank you so much for continuing your patronage. We are so thankful to you and to all of our patrons for your support. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta, and there are some great perks lined up for our patrons. Benjamin, what's the first perk?
In my opinion, the best perk available to our patrons is an exclusive 20% off code that you can use anytime you visit eldoradogaming.com and check out our premium metal dice, deck boxes, play mats, and other gaming accessories to bling out your gaming experience. 20% off means the first time you use that code, it pays for months of your patronage, potentially, depending on how much you buy. But it's totally worth it, right? Just if for no other reason, just consider it buying a coupon code to really upgrade your gaming life, and you won't regret it.
Randy, what's the next perk?
As always, it is early and ad-free content. You will never have any ads when you pay for Patreon. YouTube, though, we can't make that same promise.
I've started hearing the ads on YouTube, y'all. They're kind of
I mean,
annoying.
they're just me.
Well,
Intrusive.
Well,
They're just me right now.
well,
But the future is coming
Yeah.
round the bend. Okay, it's going to start being like, there's a salad to go ad.
Factor.
Shadow Legends.
Raid Shadow. Hey, if we can get raids, y'all, I'll be happy to get Raid Shadow Legends.
I would personally
I mean-
shield for Raising Cane's.
I mean, that's the dream. Oh yeah. Raising Cane's would be a dream. The official iced tea of Derek.
Yeah.
And patrons also get access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server. This is where we are recording right now. This is also where Randy and I met earlier this week to start buying tickets for Japan stuff. This is where me and Benjamin and Derek met earlier this week in order to talk about our next deck building challenge.
That was literally last night.
it was.
But our listeners don't know that.
I'm telling the listener, it was last night. It was
Yeah, it was
24
last
hours
night.
ago.
But this Discord server is hopping more and more. We are using it all the time to communicate. And so if you want in, if you want an easy way to communicate with us, the Discord server becomes available to our patrons. All right, Derek, have you got a better surprise perk this week than you did last time?
I don't remember what I had last time.
It was
We
pretty
will
bad.
write a letter through Discord.
Yeah, well, we will.
Yeah, but we need a better perk.
Well, this week's perk is brought to you by Travis and Randy. If we get some sponsors or some patrons, they're going to go to Japan and they're going to train with world-renowned Marie Kondo on lessons about organization and getting their life right. And they will bring that knowledge back to the States for you, listener.
And help our hoarder listeners.
They will drive out to your house and help you do this. One time only.
You bring your collection to us and we'll sort it.
You want-
Do
want
these
them to bring
Gundam
their
models
whole house
spark
over.
joy?
No. Just their collection of whatever gaming paraphernalia they have.
And then we will take it off their hands.
Well, no, we'll organize it for them. You know, it's like here's 10,000 Magic cards, separated by color, and alphabetize them. Like, all right, let's get to work, Travis.
You know, I would totally do that. That is one thing that I love doing at the shop that I work at now. Guys, last Friday, I literally spent like probably 6 hours inventorying D&D miniatures and then restocking the shelves and rearranging all the pegs to put the miniatures in alphabetical order.
It's kind of therapeutic, isn't it?
It is. It's so calming. So listeners, thank you as always for listening. And we especially hope that you consider becoming a patron and going to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. All right, we continue the summer of hot takes this week. This week's scalding hot take comes from Benjamin. Benjamin, what have you got this week that is just going to draw the slings and arrows and the ire of the public and the ire of us onto you this week? What's your hot take?
Listeners, Pod, you should be grateful that your hobby is so expensive.
Your Honor, permission to treat the defendant as hostile.
No, Benjamin, I do not like spending money on toys.
Right.
I do that. I do spend my money on toys, but I would like to spend less money on toys.
Would you, though? Would you really?
Yes.
I think you would just buy more toys.
Okay, I mean, that hurts and feels like a very personal attack.
How are you going to call him out in front of the whole world like that? In front of his wife
the whole
and
world,
kids? Come on.
The whole world is only 76 subscribers at this point, so.
Well, when they come back to the archives...
When they come back!
2 years later...
Oh, no.
I figure he's going to be disgraced, mocked for the streets. Little pee-pee boy spends money on toys.
I mean, hey, we all do it. We
Benjamin,
know.
No. Playing Magic does not have to be as expensive as it is.
And you know what? You.
This is a family podcast.
You're just doing that on purpose. That was not even an accident.
Giving Travis more editing work.
Put him through the work. Make him earn that Patreon money.
So, okay, so let me lay it out for you, right? Obviously, I think we would all prefer to just be able to participate in whatever hobby that we're in, and there's a whole bunch of them out there. There's lots of sports, pickleball, there's collecting comic books and sports cards and memorabilia. There's obviously collectible card games like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, right? There's even, there's lots of video games. There's the collectible video games. There's the online video games. There's a whole bunch of ranges in between.
Collectible video?
Oh, I was thinking like Pokemon, where...
Oh, okay, yeah. Where you want to collect things in the game.
Right, and also collect the different versions of the games. But, there's all these different hobbies. I think you'll find that the most successful ones are the most expensive ones. It's very, very rare to find a hobby that stays cheap the more popular it gets. Now, obviously, that's simple supply and demand, right? But I think that, one, you should be grateful because if your hobby is expensive, it means there's a market for it. It means that there are a lot of people out there. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of incentive for people to get into that area. And, sometimes that can... It can feel bad, right? It can feel bad when Disney takes over your fandom.
Yeah.
Looking at Star Wars fans here, right? It can feel bad when a company starts looking at its bottom line instead of the player's happiness. But I'll let you in on a secret. Pretty much every game designer is looking after their bottom line rather than the health of the player base, even the little startup, right? In fact, I was on the phone yesterday with a game designer who I hadn't actually talked to you about this yet, Travis, but he was asking if we would be interested in selling his game on our website and possibly at conventions. So we'll talk about that later.
You have my attention.
Yeah. But anyways, I have a lot of respect for this guy. He's someone I've known for a long time. I know for a fact he's not just in anything for the money. Right? Very high-minded. He's very caring. And so much of that conversation was about how he could make more money. So, I mean, just because it's a necessity in the world we live in, and it's a big reason why people do anything public, really, right? It's easy for anyone to design a game and play it with their friends. But to design a game and then go public, to make a Kickstarter, put it in big box stores, send it to your local gaming store, your friendly LGS. They're doing that for the money, right? Or possibly the fame. And in that situation, right, you're not getting involved in any of these games based on someone who cares about your well-being. So with that,
okay.
yeah. So I'm just putting that out of the way, right? Don't be like, Hasbro took over my favorite game and now it sucks. Well, Hasbro has the same goal as any local game designer. Okay?
Yeah.
They just do it efficiently and sometimes a little more coldly. But okay.
Okay, so you haven't endeared me to the corpos yet.
No, I don't want to endear you to the corpos. I think it's entirely possible for them to lose their way, right? I do not think. So this is where I'm going to start moderating my position a little bit. But I do want y'all to push back.
We've already got them on the back foot, boys. Keep up
Okay.
the pressure.
And all it took... Derek.
Your hobby should be expensive because it's good for the game. I don't think that artificial expense at the... Well, I should take that back. Let me start over.
Benjamin talked himself onto his own back foot.
Love it.
Well, I'm coming back here. I think it's also healthy for game designers and the people who are moderating a hobby, that could be movie producers, comic book writers, artists, whatever, to create artificial scarcity that dries up costs. I think that your hobby having expensive items to purchase, having things that people can collect, and generally having parts that are more or less accessible to members of the community that are in different tiers is ultimately healthy for the game and good for the vast majority of the people in that hobby. That's my hot take.
That artificial scarcity is good for the hobby?
Yep. I think artificial scarcity is good for the hobby.
I am dumbstruck at that.
Okay, so here we go.
That the McRib is good for society.
Isn't it though?
Because it's only available once a year.
Isn't it though? Isn't the McRib good for society? Do you want it? First of all right, let's break down the McRib since you brought it up.
Okay.
Do you ever buy the McRib?
No.
Never in my life.
Okay, well then you're not its target audience, right?
Zero times.
Obviously, it keeps coming back because people buy it.
Right.
But if it was always on their menu, I think people would stop buying it, right? It only exists for those people who like it precisely because it is scarce.
Well, let me throw you a different example. Whataburger had their honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich meal.
So good.
Okay.
Which was it's the same deal as the McRib, and then they eventually just brought it back for good.
Yeah.
I go get that almost every time I go there.
Well, the McRib situation is different. I don't know if y'all know why the McRib comes and goes. Basically, when the price of pork drops below a certain level, McDonald's goes up and buys a ton of it, and they'll just keep buying it until the price of pork goes back up, and then they stop buying it. And so the McRib is available only when pork is cheap, basically.
So whenever there's like a pork disease outbreak and the prices tank, they're like, let's buy it all up, get all that infected pork.
Exactly.
Mold shit.
Put it into a compressed rib-like form.
Yeah, a rib patty.
And slather it in sauce.
Yep. You figured it out.
That's why I don't eat McRibs.
Okay, let's go back to hobbies here. All right.
Okay.
Probably one of the cheapest hobbies you can think of, basketball, right? All you have to do to be able to play basketball is live near a park and buy a $10 ball, right?
Okay.
But the more someone plays basketball, is that all they're going to buy?
No, not at all.
No. They're going to
buy shoes. They're going to buy gym shorts of like luxury brands.
Mm-hmm. They're going
to buy Under Armour shirts.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna buy sweatbands for their wrists and head.
Water bottles.
Yep.
Yeah, they're gonna accessorize.
And you can do that cheaply, right? You could certainly go buy a $20 pair of shoes that pay less that'll last you a season and just do that every year. You can just rip some rags around your wrist and head, buy a $2 bandana for your head, a pair of shorts from Walmart.
Really speaking my language.
Right?
Keep going.
You can do all this. Plastic water bottles, the whole works, right? And continue.
And Benjamin, you just described Derek's pickleball
That's
outfit.
my ideal outfit. I want to look homeless and dangerous.
And see, and this is great because Derek has access to pickleball with his homeless outfit.
Yeah, with his shoestring budget.
Yeah, and that's totally fine for his enjoyment. But if he wanted to go further, he would invest more money.
Yeah.
Right? And
he could join a club. He could subscribe to the magazine.
Never.
I'll
never subscribe to physical media.
And further,
yeah.
So once you get into that, using basketball or pickleball as an example, maybe you go watch the pros play, and maybe you buy one of their jerseys. Maybe you start investing in higher level equipment. Maybe you start joining a gym or a country club or the YMCA so that you can have better fields or better courts,
better
or
facilities in
better
general.
facilities. Yeah, the whole thing is all of those things only become available to you because there are people to play with, because there are people looking
because
to
the
take
hobby is popular enough.
Because the hobby is popular enough, right? I knew that pickleball was a thing when I started seeing people painting over tennis courts with lines for pickleball. I was like, well, all right. I guess that's, the demand was there, right? And the cost of pickleball equipment went up. But the cost of pickleball equipment going up means you have people to play with. Means you have media built for you because they want to cater to the pickleball crowd, right? It means that your YMCA is going to host pickleball lessons now, and you can enroll your kids in it. You don't have to teach them yourself, right? It means that competitive leagues, that maybe they'll have it at the Olympics in the next 10 years, and all of that comes with the cost of higher demand. So if you want people to play with, if you want people that you can talk about your hobby with, if you want to be able to see pros, you have to accept that comes with higher cost of access. I don't think that you have to enjoy paying more money, or even that you should, right? I think what Derek is doing is perfectly fine to say, I spent $10 on my equipment, I bought a racket from a garage sale, and I wear my Walmart slides to the court, and
Derek's out there playing barefoot.
right?
Listen, if my old feet could take it, I might.
I don't necessarily think that you should go out and spend a bunch of money because you enjoy your hobby. What I do think is that the hobby having expensive options means that your hobby is in a healthy place and it's desirable for the people around you. Now, that does not mean I don't think that there should also not be expensive game pieces that maybe are required, and I think we're going to get into that.
Yeah, let's I think we're all itching to talk about Magic here.
Okay.
Magic costs more and more to play every time a new set comes out.
Yeah.
Modern Horizons 3 just came out, and they are $11 a pack.
Yeah.
$11. When a pack from a normal set is only $4 to $5.
Yeah.
Why does this pack of the same cardstock, the same printer, and the same designers, why did the pack from Modern Horizons 3 cost $11 while a pack from 2 months ago by the same company, printed at the same printers, designed by the same people, only cost $4.50?
Because you'll pay it. No, really, that's why. Well, of course, we've already established, Randy, all of this is being done for greed, right? If they could, if greed was the only reason, then all packs would be $11. I bet all packs would be $50. But the reason the price changes is because the demand changes. And why does the demand change? Because Modern Horizons 3 was a higher powered set with interesting designs. And, well, I mean, that's it, right? It was a higher powered set with interesting designs. It's chase cards. It's full of chase cards, right? And before we drive off any listeners going, oh, they're back to their month of Magic again, this applies to Warhammer figurines. This applies to any other collectible card game. This applies to issue number 1 of Superman that no one can read because they don't have access to it, This applies to any number of hobbies. I'm going to say this applies to golf, right? Like, I am probably the target audience for golf, even though I don't play it because it's expensive. And it's just not the thing I have, room in my budget for because I play Magic.
Right.
And so every hobby has the same issue where there are things they're inaccessible. If I want a 3-wood in addition to my normal, one, driver and whatever else, if I want a special,
a specialized single niche use club,
right? That will make
then you'd have to pay for it.
Exactly. That'll make my game better. I'll get that much more precise in my chip shots or on my long drives than I would if I didn't have that club. Can I still play the game at the lower level with the base set of clubs? Sure. But buying the extra club will take me to the next.
I'm just imagining Derek being like, I'm going to try out golf, guys. All I have is a driver.
Right.
Whop!
Is it Tin Cup where he plays with just the 7-iron?
I think so. Yes.
So, yeah, that's like, it's the same in Magic, right? The higher level play requires higher level cards. We have talked at length on this podcast about how, we power down our decks in order to have fun. We don't need a Black Lotus in our decks to have fun.
Yeah.
And We don't need to have the premium highest end version of everything. If we wanted to be competitive, we would. And that's where the additional cost comes from. We could have, as a group, decided to just ignore Modern Horizons 3 and not paid any of it. But its existence, right, one, allows us to level up our game if we want to, and two, allows Wizards of the Coast to continue making cards that we enjoy and want to buy. So that's going to be my point number 2 here. So the first one, it's a sign of health and desirability that your hobby is expensive. Number 2 is that it helps you step up your game. It allows for that build up. And you know what? I'm going to go into other hobbies here. Comic books. I don't know if any of you know a lot of people who are into comic books. Do y'all?
I'm into comic books.
You're into comic books? Doesn't it give you a certain amount of social capital to say you have read or owned a special edition comic book?
No. I'm the wrong person, though. I don't care about material things.
I like comics, but not individual issues. I only ever buy like omnibuses or
oh, okay.
Yeah, I want the whole story.
The complete story
Yeah.
packaged all in one thicker volume. Because a single volume is usually like 20 pages. And I can read that in like a half hour. Like I'm not going to stop at my local comic shop weekly or monthly to get a half hour's worth of entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. So then we're obviously the wrong audience for that.
I do know that you've talked recently about how that's something that you're getting into, of being like, ooh, this is a signed copy of this, variant cover and whatever.
Well, at TCG Con, I talked to a collector from here in Katy who had all these special edition comic books, vinyls, playmats, things that he, very highly curated, right? Where they were all numbered X of 100, or this one was signed specifically at this event where he only signed 3 of these or whatever. And I know that I could have the regular one, or I could have the special edition signed in gold ink, copy, and they're the same one. And honestly, if I'm going to read one, I probably should read the regular one. But there's something about having that other one that just really gives you this sense of pride or accomplishment, social capital, self-expression, this sort of thing like, I have chosen, right? Money represents time, right? For most people. Yeah, there's rich people who just have it. But for us, we make money with this time we spend working, the times we spend doing the things that we don't necessarily enjoy. And then we take that time, convert it into money, and then reconvert it into other things we enjoy, right? And so what you choose to spend your money on is really an expression of yourself. It's an expression of your preferences. It's an expression of your play styles if it's a game, right? It's an expression of the things you want to broadcast it into the world. And it does give you a way to talk to people, a way to make friends, and a way to differentiate yourself from others. Now, some people will do this in a gatekeeping kind of way, saying, oh, you don't own blah, blah, blah. Well, then you're not a real fan. Don't do that.
So trying to convert it to something that we could understand, like at TCG Con, I got a playmat signed.
Yeah.
From the artist. Is that kind of what you're talking about? That I have this bling, this special item that belongs only to me that nobody else has?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great example, right? You have this special thing. It was signed in front of you by the artist, and there are a limited number of those in the world. And, why did you pay someone to sign a piece of fabric? Why did you do that?
Because I appreciate what she's given to the Magic community, and I guess to me, I get to express myself and the stuff I enjoy in the game through this new physical item that I can unroll at the Magic table.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the form of self-expression there also goes into play styles, right? So I've got 2 examples of this. One is when you build a Warhammer army, when you build a Magic deck or a Yu-Gi-Oh deck or Pokemon deck, when you go and buy golf clubs, or you're picking which pair of shoes you're going to wear when you go play basketball. You have options on where you choose to spend your money within that hobby, and how you choose to spend that money is a form of self-expression. You can choose, like, especially if you choose to be competitive at Magic, you could do that by buying one single competitive deck, right? Let's say if you want, there are competitive Modern decks, right? Modern has an active Pro Tour with plenty of prize support. You could build a competitive Magic deck for $300 to $400 and maybe spend an extra $50 a year updating it with whatever the new hotness is. And for a hobby like Magic, that's a relatively cheap cost. $400 up front, $50 a year. And then that's it, right? And if you wanted to get really good and be competitive and win year after year, you could do that. But which deck you choose to spend that $400 at once and $50 a year is a representation of your playstyle and preferences. If you choose to build a new deck, that is also a representation of your playstyle and preferences. If you choose to then upgrade that deck with premium versions, foils, alternate arts, whatever, that's also a representation of your playstyle and preferences. And the fact that you can still play the game without that means that when you do choose to spend that money on the competitive version, the card that gives you a 1% advantage and most of the time you wouldn't notice, that's also showing that this is something you care about and have chosen to play, and you're doing it at the expense of a different hobby. You chose to not get the drink at Chipotle this time, right? or whatever, because you'd rather have that card for your deck than a coffee this morning.
So I think it's right here where we can say, like, shouldn't I be able to compete at a competitive level without buying? It's like anyone who plays competitive chess, they do not need to buy a new chessboard for every event. They do not need to buy a new chessboard each year, a $50 a year upgraded chessboard. They don't have to buy each piece to play the game.
True.
Like, isn't it certainly possible to have an active competitive hobby that doesn't require non-stop investment?
Yes and no. So I love that you brought up chess, because it's the quintessential example of the hobby you never have to pay for again, right?
Right.
Except that competitive chess masters or grandmasters absolutely spend lots and lots and lots of money on chess, right? And it starts early. You'll never find anyone who gets into chess who's playing with the $5 board from Walmart. You'll just seriously, right? You don't do that. You go out and you start upgrading your pieces. The most common version, if you're really just wanting to get people into it, is you buy one of those mats and the portable chess pieces that you can take with you everywhere, because those cardboard flimsy ones with the plastic pieces, they break. Sure. They so you immediately do, once you get into the hobby, upgrade your set, right? Then if you're wanting to step up your game, you probably subscribe to the publications. You take lessons. You start, there are leagues. And if you're traveling to leagues, you're paying money, and the people who.
But if I'm traveling to leagues, well, I guess I have to pay a registration fee for that league or for that competition or whatever. But I was gonna say, like, buying my airline ticket, that money doesn't go to the chess league people.
Right. No.
Like that cost is not benefiting them.
Right, but
except for the registration fee or whatever that I'm paying.
Right, but you are still having to pay. So yeah, there's two sides of this. So one side of it is you still have to pay money to be competitive, even in a hobby like chess. You will never become a grandmaster playing chess with your local game group if y'all are not spending the time and money to go outside of your group to get better. No one becomes. Can
I become a chess grandmaster playing online?
I doubt it. I mean, I imagine maybe. But if you watch the people online like Gotham Chess or people like that, they, well, first of all, the amount of money they spend on their setup, on their chess programs that can monitor their things, right? They're spending lots of money to get better, and they're also not just playing online. But the other side of it is chess. It had a resurgence in the last, say, 2 years. It was not the hobby. It was nothing compared to Magic. It was nothing compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! It's still not, right? Chess is a worldwide game that's been around for centuries, and it does not have the following of upstarts like Magic.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there are probably more people who play Call of Duty. Well, I mean, maybe. I don't know the percentage. Maybe that's not true. But it certainly has more, all of these hobbies that we're talking about that are expensive certainly have more mainstream appeal. chess is timeless and it'll last forever, and there will always be people who play it. But when it comes to, hey, the health of the hobby, when it comes to the mystique that brings people in and gets people to play with, the very existence of those expensive self-expressive items brings people in, right? It's like what we say at conventions when we're selling our totally non-necessary metal dice. There's literally no
Benjamin,
game.
can you be cool?
There's literally no game that requires metal dice.
Our dice do roll better than plastic dice.
Oh, absolutely, right? But
Yeah.
it's the example of the 1% better. You can play Yahtzee. You can play Yahtzee with your plastic dice, or you could play with premium metal dice from Eldorado Gaming. And the only difference is how you feel and how you chose to express yourself. What colors did you choose? You know, the fact that our industry exists at all is proof that people want to spend money on their game, and that it's better for the health of the industry that people like us can exist, right? So, and that's where I'll get to part 2 of the chess thing, right? The chess tournaments would not exist at all if there weren't people who could collect a registration fee and make a small profit from hosting chess tournament. And the more money there is in it for the game designers and the LGSs and right, all the people who create the experience for your hobby, the better your hobby will thrive, right? So this isn't just, hey, it being expensive means people want it, but also money means that it can reach a wider audience, right? The local gaming stores that we visit would not exist if they could not sell expensive items to us, right? Their profits depend on there being money in it for them. When we get together and play, we're usually not at our houses. We're usually at a local gaming store.
Where we can acquire product.
And that's the we don't do this, and you should not do this, listener. We could walk into any one of those. We could walk into Montauk's, we could walk into Goldmine, we could walk into, what was the other one? Spuds. We could walk into any of those, sit down and play for hours using their air condition, using their utilities, their bathroom, and we could leave 6 hours later and they will have lost money from that, right? One of my favorite game stores was a place called Specialties in San Angelo, and they would just let people play their board games. You could come in, didn't even have to reserve a table, you just walk in and say, hey, do you have any interesting games that you've acquired recently? And they're like, yeah, do you want to play test it? And they would open one for you and let you go play games for free in their back room, just because. They're losing money letting people do that. But it's a service they provide, and the only way that situation can exist, that they have a place for us to get together, is because they can sell us this product. And especially expensive game pieces like singles, like miniatures, like high-end comics, right? They can turn around and say, hey, I acquired this and I'm selling it to you at a profit so that you can come and enjoy my air condition while you play your cards. And same thing with the game designers, right? Chess hasn't changed in 200 years. And it will never change. That's part of its appeal, right?
Win chess 2.
We're taking out the PvP, we're putting in PvE.
and that's fine.
Chess 2 with a new meta. We've come up with 20 new pieces.
We're adding a third player. The pawns can now shoot diagonally with assault rifles up to 2 squares away, as well as their diagonal attack.
It's a 20 by 20.
If you pay for the DLC, the bishop can move as a queen 1 turn only for $5 a game.
Oh my god.
Okay.
And someone would wail out on it.
Yes, yeah. Okay, suppose that some of that stuff was desirable, right? Like playing variations of chess. Since we're back at chess, chess.com has all sorts of interesting variants. They have AIs that they host that'll let you play at different levels. They have challenges, they have timed games, they have all these services they provide, and the only reason they can do that is because they charge money, right? Because
people are willing to pay a subscription for access to that.
Well, they also get
to all those modes,
ad revenue,
right,
and all that stuff.
Right, but they have a premium version. They have, and it's the same with whatever hobby, right? In order to introduce the variants, this cool new version of whatever it is, in order to make the expansions, in order to make the new card that we love, right? We're all talking about, our next deck challenge is based on cards that came out recently that had to be designed by Wizards of the Coast. That's because they can make cards that we want to buy and are willing to spend lots of money on. That pays for their 1,200 employees, roughly half of which are designing cards and doing art and doing things that make us like this game and keep coming back and drawing in new players. Like, it's a cycle. The expense of the game is a sign that it's healthy, and it stays healthy because it stays expensive, right? So I think that's about covered it. Now I'm going to do my step back and everything, since y'all don't seem to be arguing with me very much.
I'm trying. Derek, Randy, hello.
I mean, I agree. It's a necessary evil.
Derek's like, no, well, I'm convinced.
Oh, no, you won me over. I mean,
all right, so Derek, tell us why you're not going to keep proxying cards.
Oh no, that'll never happen.
Yeah, let's hear that.
Yeah, so Derek, that's what I want to hear. You have been our most vocal champion over the past year that we've been doing this podcast, almost, of proxying cards, of not letting costs be a barrier to the game. And I think it was maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago saying, why should the rich be able to play powerful cards, but the poor can't?
Yeah.
Like, tell us, defend those here and say why proxying is still fine.
Yeah, I think that everything Benjamin said is valid. It's a necessary evil that you need for, if the game is popular, they need staff to make up new cards or make up new games and all that stuff. They got to pay for all that stuff, and they also have to make a profit so that way they continue to do that. My problem is that I think that if you want a game to be available for everyone, the barrier to entry should be as low as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So, we have a pack, like we said, a normal pack costs like $4 or $5, and then suddenly Modern Horizons 3 costs $11. And the only reason that's like that is because they decided that we're going to put doo-doo cards in the Outlaw Junctions cards, and we're going to put the super powerful ones that we've been sandbagging into the $11 packs to incentivize, it's like the turning the water up on the frog slowly until it cooks alive. They try to,
And this is kind of what I was thinking about earlier. I don't think any designer got paid more for making cards for Modern Horizons 3.
Yeah.
Like, the cost on their end didn't change when they were designing Modern Horizons 3.
It is the same
when
amount.
When they were printing, when they were designing the cards, when they were playtesting,
The art,
they did all the same things.
Yeah. And I think that any card should be available. What is a card if not just a rule set? The rule set is now online and available for everyone. So I still buy cards, I still buy packs because I like to support this game because I love this game. But if I want to play a deck that, I have a certain idea in my mind, I don't want to spend, let's say, $30 for a Smothering Tide. Like, it's just a good card that would really help out this deck, and I don't want to spend that kind of money on a card because they won't reprint it. And I mean, it's, each pack is a lottery chance that you may get it, and I can't just choose to get it through them for $11. So
right,
or $5 or whatever. So I think, I want to keep supporting this game, and I want to play the cards I want to play in the decks I want to play.
Yeah.
I just had a thought.
Yeah.
What if Magic ever offered just like a set pack, or like a set box where it's literally just one of every card in this set, $200?
They do that. It's called Commander Theme Decks, where like what they just did with Fallout or Lord of the Rings before that, or Doctor Who, a 4-deck kit, $200. What is that? That's 80 new cards and however many reprints for this set amount.
But in that there's some cards that are only in the Commander decks, and there's some cards that aren't in the Commander decks that were in the box set that came out that was like associated, like when Lord of the Rings, there were Commander decks, but there was also cards not in those decks that were just in the set.
I know that some shops do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Card Kingdom at one point used to do that, where you could just say, I want one of every card from XYZ set. But I mean, all they do is tally up the cost of all the singles.
Yeah.
And just say, here's what you wanted, man, and it's going to be $450.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm saying I wonder why. I mean, I'm sure I know why, but Wizards of the Coast could do it.
Wizards of the
Coast. I agree with you,
yeah.
And I've thought about that for a long time. For the past 6 or 7 years, I've been like, man, it would be really great if I could just get one of each card from the set
Yeah.
Or I don't know, maybe just like, buy singles, I guess is what it boils down to. Is if there's 40 commons that I don't need and don't want, then I might as well cut those out of the price of one of each card from the set. So I just buy the cards I want, and that's going to cost me $150 each set if I decided to go that route.
Yeah, which is basically what Randy's proposing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, they used to do this on Magic Online. If you had one of each card from a set, you could redeem it from Magic Online, and they would send you a box. You would no longer have they would take it out of your collection online and send you the actual cards.
Jesus Christ!
Why would they do that?
Evil.
What?
Like, why would they take it out of your collection online?
So that you couldn't just keep redeeming it over and over?
Well, it's digital. You can just go like
It's digital. You just say
tag it.
the code from this IP or the code from this account has been redeemed.
Yeah. Well, you could do it multiple times. I did that back with original Innistrad. I redeemed online set for original Innistrad. But anyways, the point is that it used to be a thing, but I think the problem is that you kind of cut out one of the biggest supporters of Magic content when you do that, which is the LGS, right? The LGS doesn't just sell Magic product; they also sell singles, right? They're the biggest buyers and sellers of singles are third-party retailers, right? And the fact that these third-party retailers buy singles, right, so that they could resell them, is part of what helps the cards retain their value and makes people want to buy packs. And the fact that they are making money by buying and reselling singles is what allows players to get involved in the first place, to have that place to play, to have Friday Night Magic. It's where, at least before recently, it's where everyone found out their Magic news. You went to your card shop and talked about, hey, did you see the latest spoiler? Did you do XYZ? And so I think if a way to acquire singles existed directly from Wizards, then many LGSs would go out of business, or would at least stop selling Magic singles. Because how are you going to compete with the creator? You have to sell at a markup. So I think that the bigger question how they might solve it is why not just reprint everything into Oblivion? Surely people would just continue to buy what they wanted, and the price of singles would go down. I think it has the same problem, right? Like, there are plenty of IPs that do this and eventually fall apart precisely because they're not collectible.
Yeah, X-Wing and Armada just ended production, like, forever.
Really?
They both... Yeah, I think the company that does both of those games, which was Fantasy Flight, but I think it was bought... It's either Asmodee or Fantasy Flight, but they both were like... I mean, the same thing that happened to Imperial Assault a few years ago. Mm-hmm. They just said, the game's over. It's no longer being produced at all. We're going to sell out the remainder of our stock, but that's it.
Yeah.
And then, like, literally the day after, you would see people putting their collections on eBay at, like, 4 times the MSRP price.
Jeez.
And we are, I mean, at Goldmine, the shop that I do work at, we have people coming in to clear out X-Wing and Armada stuff. They're like, I got to get it before it's gone forever.
Yeah. But I think, did they reprint their stuff into Oblivion? Did it stop being collectible until they went out of business? And then
they just constantly reprinted whenever stores ordered more.
Yeah.
Whenever stores ordered it, they just constantly reprinted the same old stuff over and over and over again.
And so it only became desirable. People only started buying it out once they closed up shop and said, okay, we're not printing anymore, and then suddenly it spiked in price, right?
And at that point, it's too late for the developers. It's too late for the designers. They've already sold all their stuff to shops who are already marking it up. Mm-hmm. So the only people who are going to profit are the shops.
Well, I mean, I feel like the developers... I'm not saying this is what they're doing specifically, but I feel like there for sure are places that do this where it's like, okay, we're going to end support of this game, and then a month later, we have a new game, you got to buy everything new again.
That's
it
true.
uses a lot of the exact same characters and pieces, but they're not the official pieces, so you have to buy from us all over again. I know you already have a TIE Fighter and a Luke Skywalker, but you don't have the official new version of this game. But it's not the same. It's not the same game. They're different games.
This one's not tournament legal, and it's not the right size.
That is exactly correct. As soon as Imperial Assault stopped, they started producing Star Wars Legion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which was literally like a 4mm difference of scale. And Shatterpoint. Star Wars Shatterpoint. which was
So-
also a skirmish Star Wars miniatures board game.
Yeah, so it's
But
like
you couldn't
as
use
soon
your
as
Imperial
their-
Assault for it.
As soon as their reorders start to slow, because it's like, okay, the clientele that are going to buy this game have pretty much bought it, and we're really thinning out on like our monthly reorders. So let's just say we're closing down the game, sell off the rest of it, because we're still gonna make our money, and then we'll just do a whole new game. And so we'll go from moving 10,000 units a month back up to our original 50,000 units a month, because we got a brand new game and everyone's got to buy into it again.
We gotta beat those growth margins.
But see, it doesn't work. Like, I mean, I guess it does work, obviously.
Oh,
But,
what do you
but
mean?
most
There's
of-
6
but mo-
Star Wars games.
Yeah, but not all by the same people.
And they are all by the same people, Benjamin. Fantasy Flight and Asmodee. And Atomic Mass Games. They're the only ones...
And Star Wars.
In terms of Star Wars, literally because it's just like the parent company owns the rights to the IP, and so they're the only people who can make Star Wars games.
Yeah,
But I mean, they stopped manufacturing or developing Star Wars Destiny and then started Star Wars Unlimited. It's another Star Wars trading card game, and it's selling like crazy. They're about to start their second set, Shadows of the Galaxy.
It stinks of Overwatch 2,
Mm-hmm.
which I guess
It's
let
the
me explain to
exact
the
same game.
listener
Yes,
is that
please.
they Overwatch 1 was a game that it was beloved, it was competitive. I think it was like 6v6, had a really healthy kind of meta or whatever.
A 6v6 arena battler that was first person
Hero
instead of
Hero
it was
shooter.
yeah.
And then they said that, okay, we're shutting Overwatch 1 down. We're coming out with Overwatch 2. It's going to have PvE. It's going to have this and that. Comes out. There's no PvE. None of the things they're there. Overwatch 1 costs like $40, $60, something like that. Overwatch 2 is free to play. But all the stuff you earned in Overwatch 1, all the skins, all the whatever you had, that's all gone. It doesn't transfer over to Overwatch 2. And then, I mean, it's the same game, except like now instead of 66, it's like 5v5. And there's more, I guess, rigid rules. And the competitive scene has just disappeared for that because it's just, I don't know, ruined. And then all the promises they did make of like, oh yeah, this is going to be so great. You guys are going to love it. The PvE is going to be there and all that stuff. That the PvE said, oh, we don't have it at this time. It was going to come out at a later release. And they said, you know what? It's not coming out at all. Whoops. But now the people who love Overwatch 1 can't go back and play Overwatch 1 because now it's closed forever.
Dang.
And it's all just so they could sell microtransactions for skins and all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, see, okay. So I will draw the line there, and I think, does Overwatch still have a highly competitive, widespread appeal? Do people still do that?
Not anymore.
Yeah. See, I think there's a line between, and I think some of the hobbies that we're involved in either have crossed it or are maybe close to. I think Magic is kind of pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. So
You mean with all of its IP Universes Beyond stuff?
no.
I think it's the
I love
premium
that stuff.
the premium products that keep coming out back to back to back. It's like there's more premium products than there are regular products, and soon
Yeah.
there'll be a super premium product, and that's going to cost $100 for 9 packs or whatever. And it's
Well,
just turning up the dial.
I don't have a problem with premium products if there are the cheaper versions, right? Like
But that's
premium
the thing,
products
is
is
there's not,
a form
though.
of self-expression. Well,
Yeah.
like collector's boosters versus play boosters, I think that's great. I think that's precisely the sort of thing that I'm talking about. Whereas I think that's good for the game. I think,
Yeah.
In fact, I think the numbers show that the average cost of cards has actually, of the cheapest version of a card available, has actually gotten lower because they've introduced all these premium variants.
I do
right?
think
Like,
that's true.
yeah.
I agree.
And so I think decisions like that are meant to both provide expensive collectible pieces and increase access to the game, I think those are absolutely good for any game. And as much as people complain because they can't always have the premium version of a game, right? That's fine. You can play base Monopoly. You don't need NASCAR Monopoly. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't need the version
Yeah.
of Monopoly that gives you a credit card and you swipe it for your transaction. Just play with paper money, right? Like, and so I will never have problems with, hey, we're offering a premium version of something that you can also get for dirt cheap, where I do think companies can mess this up the other way. So we mentioned they can mess up things by making them too cheap to the point of running LGSs out of business, running, ruining the collectability so that people aren't interested. It loses its appeal. It loses its mystique. People can no longer express themselves. Because ultimately, if every single Magic card cost 1 cent, right, and we could buy every single one for a penny that we wanted, we would, for a while, we would go hog wild, building absolutely everything we wanted. But I think that within, say, 2 years, we would have built everything we wanted, and we'd be done. Our creative juices would be done. We would have every deck we possibly wanted. The meta as a whole, the community as a whole would have explored every single possibility. There'd be no collectability. There'd be no reason to chase after everything. There'd be nothing to strive for in that hobby. It would just be done.
Well, I mean, people can do that.
It would become chess. It would become chess.
People can do that already online with deck building and playing online with, what are the online ones that you can play?
Well, there's Arena and Magic Online, but those still cost money. There's a bunch of, I don't remember the names of them, but there's a bunch of ones where you can do it for free, like tabletop simulator type games.
Yeah, I mean,
I think there's one called Cockatrice and something.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to think of. These cards already exist in the world. We can already think about, oh, this could be good here, this could be good here, and we haven't stopped playing yet.
Well, we haven't stopped playing, but there's something about physical play, first of all, because we could all jump on Magic Online if we wanted to, and we don't, right? We could be doing that right now, but we're not, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that it is available, but we don't have all these cards, right? We use those things for brainstorming, but we brainstorm within limits, precisely because there's a price, right? Restrictions breed creativity. You've probably heard that somewhere, but it's true, and we play with cheaper versions of cards, which opens up new possibilities. Like, I don't want to sit there and say handicapping yourself is always the best way to get better, but there are cards that, like, every time we do a budget deck challenge, we make fun, interesting decks that, precisely because we're forced to play with cheaper versions of cards for that challenge. And I think that why would we ever do something like that if there was no such thing as budget, right? Like, I think we would make the decks we wanted in real life, not just brainstorming on whatever, and then that would be the end of it. Like, and not immediately. Yeah, I think it would take years, but the game would die. Or it would not die. It would become chess, right? Where there's a solved meta, and people play with tier 1 decks, and every once in a while they might handicap themselves with some theme challenge or whatever, but like, it would just be this, every meta you go to is CEDH and
I mean, that's assuming that everyone just wants to play CEDH. I mean, some people just like playing. Like,
yeah.
If we had access to every single card, I don't think overnight we're suddenly going to want to play CEDH all the time. We still
I didn't say overnight. I said
I
would say years.
When 2 years or something like that. I mean, but 2 years right now, maybe they reprint something that's super expensive or get rid of the reserve list, and suddenly those cards are available. In 2 years, I don't see us suddenly want to be sweaty. We had our sweaty moment with the Ascension Classic.
Right. But I mean, look at what happened. Like, they reprint a card and it suddenly becomes accessible, and suddenly it's showing up in Randy's decks, right? He's got Mana Crypt, he's got Mana Vol, he's got, we were talking about this right before the show started, not because he went out and spent $700 on a deck, but because at the time, he acquired cards that were previously hard to acquire, and suddenly he added them. Because why wouldn't he? If you've got them, play them, right? I think that's what would happen. I think we would say, why am I not playing with a Mana Ball, right? It's right there. Okay. It makes my deck better. And
I'd certainly put more Phyrexian Altars in my decks if I had more of them.
Exactly. We'd all be running a Mana Tithe in any deck with white. We'd be running Dockside Extortionist in any deck with red, right? There would just be literally no reason not to.
Much more Anointed Processions running around.
Absolutely. And so the number of cards who would not make the cut in our decks would increase, because why not play the best version, right? Why would you play what's the second the doubling season that's not as good because it's for everybody?
Primal Vigor.
Yeah, Primal Vigor.
Yeah.
Why would you play that over doubling season? Now, I have a deck that runs Primal Vigor. It actually, in that one deck, it's actually better than doubling season.
Oh, Griswold?
Yeah, Griswold.
Yeah.
But like, Primal Vigor is still expensive because of what it does, and it creates interesting situations in games, even when doubling season would have been better for that deck, but people choose Primal Vigor instead, and it creates an interesting experience. But why would you ever do that? And so I think that's what I mean by metas would.
In your scenario, is the game still being developed?
Well, why? Like,
I guess how
I mean,
could it
no.
develop if they're selling cards for a penny?
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. No, that
Okay.
the game would stop being developed.
If they can't afford to pay their staff, Benjamin, what we want in that case is a government bailout. We want the government to pay that company to continue developing their game.
Right, and then we have Iraq War Edition.
Yes.
Universes,
yes, exactly.
Universes Beyond.
Yes, I want Operation Desert Storm Commander decks.
Outlaws of Thunder Junction, sponsored by the Army.
Dual deck Biden versus Trump.
Oh,
Hey, that's going on right now.
God. Dual decks, my God.
You know, so I mean, I don't know. That's a whole nother discussion. But I think that just like for casual fans of basketball, you go in your normal sneakers with your cheap ball from Target and you have a great time. For casual fans of pickleball, you show up in your homeless dress and you have a great time. You get a sweat and you feel rejuvenated. And for casual fans of Magic, you play with your knockoff Magic cards, and I think that's fine.
Derek.
And so
you and your proxies.
and we are casual fans of Magic, and I think it's fine if we proxy our cards for good reason, right? For the purpose of having fun. And so I think there's a place for proxiers. So I'll just say that I think that there's a place for them. I don't think they should be rejected. I think in any casual play group, a person who proxies in order to keep up with the meta should be totally accepted, right? And I don't know if we've had that discussion on the pod in a while, but I do not want my listener to hear me say, if you're poor, you shouldn't play Magic or participate in a hobby, right? If you're like, go find a hobby. Pretty much any widespread hobby is accessible to people without a lot of money. And Magic and comic books and well, Warhammer might be an exception. But Magic's not an exception. Proxying is a thing, right? Let people play Warhammer with plastic chess pieces. Like, I don't care, you know? 'Cause,
I mean, there are people who 3D print their models.
Yeah, well, I mean, but
instead of buying them
pay
from
for
the
3D print.
Yeah.
But
Hey, it's getting cheaper and cheaper.
that's true.
I can go get a 3D printer that'll do an army real well for under $300 now. A
Okay.
resin one.
I would personally love to try Warhammer, but the barrier to entry is so high that I'm like, absolutely
Yeah.
not. For something I may not like. And it's the same problem I have with board games. Like, I don't know if I'll like this. Why would I buy this?
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about Magic is that you actually can buy starter decks for pretty cheap. And for it's one of the so I taught my son to play Magic, and you know, I gave
Guys, Ezra was so excited when we were on Discord the other day. He wanted to show me his blue-green deck.
Yeah, he made a
Yeah,
blue-green deck out of commons and uncommons that I was like, yeah, you can have these. And I gave him a bunch of lands and gave him some basic deck building tips, like super basic. And he was super excited. And at first we just played it. We separated it in half and said, here's a 30-card blue deck and a 30-card green deck, and we played against each other. And then he wanted to play with the blue-green deck together, so I pulled out a modern burn deck that I had and took out some of the... I slightly weakened it, but obviously still way better than that, but I just wanted a deck that was simple to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And we played it, and we took turns playing burn versus his blue-green cheap pile of nothing. And
his blue-green draft chaff deck.
Yeah, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And it was fun. Yeah. And he...
That's so exciting. That's awesome.
And we took turns playing those, and surprisingly, the blue-green deck did fairly okay against my modern burn deck, and it was great. And so he does not need the expensive cards to have fun in this hobby. And I think that's true for anyone who wants to enjoy a hobby, is that yes, we all have a responsibility to choose how we spend money. And I don't think we should be trying to pressure companies, friends, or anyone else into trying to cheapen the game so that we can play at the highest level, because I think that ultimately hurts our chance to enjoy the hobby by putting companies out of business, by reducing game spaces, by destroying the allure and what makes the community a place for people to participate in the first place.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I just think people should be able to play at the power level and the games they want to play. If someone wants to play CDH and they need the cards to do it, you know.
Do you think that's true for like the Pro Tour? Should you be able to use proxies on the Pro Tour in your opinion?
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely think so.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it makes sense because it's one of those things that gets at that point, it's like only the rich can get into this thing to make money. Only the rich can get richer.
Yeah.
And it's like what I was saying. It's almost like think this came up before we started recording, but I was talking about League of Legends. Like, you can play League of Legends on your computer for free. You don't need any, cosmetics or anything. But in order to, because now I'm thinking of, you want the computer that can run it at the highest speeds. You want the mouse that has the highest reactivity. You want the keyboard that does whatever. So never mind.
On a game like League of Legends, it can run on a potato. Okay.
Okay.
You can have a like I'm rocking a 960, and you're still gonna run 100 FPS on League of Legends probably.
Okay.
So yeah, like League is not intensive. Being like, I got 300 FPS in League, it's like cool. It runs at 60 FPS. That's as fast as the game. Now, I don't know what it actually speed it's polling at, but it's just I'm just saying it's like your computer's gonna be fine. Now like first person shooters, like Counter-Strike, there might be a little bit of that on like having a little bit faster monitor refresh or your mouse be a higher sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at that point, you're either good or you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I know. Proxy.
And,
I think,
listener, you'll never hear me say that you should not proxy, except when it's against the rule.
I think you've
but
got
to get the rule, fight the system.
Yeah, you've got your bills and your groceries and all that stuff you have to take care of. And then you get to prioritize what you want to spend your money on. I still like to support this game because I love it. I still buy products, but I will proxy cards that I think are not worth $30, $60, $100. If I just want to play the game, I want to play the deck I have in my mind, regardless of what somebody tells me the price is.
Yeah. There was something that was running through my head earlier that I forgot to say. Y'all remember when Commander decks used to be like $45, $50-ish?
I remember during COVID when it was $20.
Well, they've always
Yeah.
had those. They still have those. The ones that are not as good, like the set Commander ones.
Not $20.
Well, no.
No, they had one a couple years ago that was still
inflation.
$20.
Everything's
That's the
more
one I'm talking
expensive,
about.
but, yeah.
Yeah. So I was thinking, though, that every time I go to my Walmart or Target or my shops now, they're like $60 to $80.
Yeah.
And I find myself being like, this is unbelievable. This is untenable. I can't do this. But the reason that I feel that way is because I'm a very enfranchised player. So when I look at a new Commander product, what I'm actually interested in is like the 15 new cards in each deck.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so I find myself being like, I don't want to spend $60 on the 15 new cards that I want.
Right.
And then a ton of lands that I'll throw away and a bunch of other cards that will go behind the other duplicates that I already have in my binders. But, if there are players out there who literally have nothing, who have no collection, and they want to get into the game with a powerful deck, the pre-offered decks are good.
Especially lately.
And in the last 4-ish years, they've gotten much better, much more powerful than they used to be. The Warhammer decks, the Doctor Who decks, the Fallout decks, and those are all the Universes Beyond stuff. But the Commander Masters decks,
Yeah, the Modern Horizons 3 deck.
Derek played in the Ascension Classic his Merfolk deck from Lost Caverns of Ixalan, the pre-con from that. And it was very powerful right out of the box with no upgrades.
Yeah.
So if for $60 you can play a very competitive deck for a player with nothing, I guess that's actually probably pretty good.
That's the same price as a high level board game these days.
See,
Yeah.
the thing that I agree that the decks are better now, but it's like, okay, well, so are just the cards in general that are in any pack. Like, that's just power creep, okay?
Yeah.
But I don't like that they're so much more expensive. Like, $40 is, I think, where they really should have capped it at.
Yeah.
$30 to $40, because now it's not just, oh, it's just $60 and now you can play. It's like, no. If I'm if I'm a young kid and I like ask my mom and dad to like, oh, can I get this? It's like,
I see
okay,
that.
it's $60, and they're like, and maybe they are like, okay, fine, whatever. They get the deck, and then it's like, well, they can't play it.
Yeah, because they need somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Because they need someone else to play with. So it's
Yeah.
like, If it was two $30 decks and you're paying $60, it's like, oh, well, now mom and son or daughter and dad, whatever combo.
Or siblings.
Siblings, parent and child, whatever. Or even just like, hey, I have two. Lend one to your friend and let them learn to play it with you. Anyway, it turns it from a $60 look at the things I bought to $60 look at the game I bought to play with someone. I have a fully functioning thing now.
Yeah.
So that's why it's like, I'm sorry, $60 to $80.
That's a really
I don't care how
really
strong
good
it
point.
is.
Yeah.
It's not a single player game, and so that's why it's just like, ugh.
Yeah. And plus, if it's $40 instead of $60, that means like, hey, I'll buy the $40 one, and let me get a couple packs also. You're still getting $60 out of me. But now I have some fun little upgrades I can throw in the deck just as my first experiment or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And
someone put us in charge of WotC. We can do it better.
God, we can
I honestly
make money and make people happy.
We came up with Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I swear to God, listener, we came up with that
10
idea
years ago.
like 2019.
Yeah. Oh,
and I think we came up with New Capenna too, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
We came up with Nuka Pinnum. I always forget
We would have put
Cyberpunk
Eurobrask
one.
in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, but yes, we did come up with it.
We predicted the
Cyberpunk one. I always forget Kamigawa, the new Kamigawa set. Capenna, Thunder Junction, and
let me immortalize it here. In the future, there'll be a Kamigawa versus Ikoria set. The Ikoria set is going to use a super type of kaiju or whatever. It's going to include like serpents, leviathans, behemoths, or whatever, all that stuff. You heard it here.
Okay, Derek immortalizing it in audio.
And then they're going to get the rights to Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the Gypsy Danger deck.
Oh, Randy, don't tease me. Because I will pay $80 for that precon.
I want John Boyega as my commander.
Give me the Charlie Hunnam, please.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you want John Boyega as your commander?
I know.
When was he in Pacific Rim?
Oh, that's right.
He was in Pacific Rim 2.
They made a Pacific Rim 2?
Derek has just blacked it out. I've never seen him leave a movie theater so disappointed.
That movie put me on suicide watch.
Derek will refuse to acknowledge that movie.
I hated that movie.
Okay,
so we've given Benjamin the floor for most of this episode. Is there any wisdom to gain from this? Is just rest assured that your money is going to the health of your hobby if you're paying a lot?
No. I'm just saying that I'm not saying spend money you don't have, and I'm not saying to spend money you don't want to spend. You do your best to get the maximum enjoyment out of your hobby for as little money as possible, right? Don't go buy special shoes if you don't see the benefit of special shoes. Proxy your cards, right? That's fine. Just also maybe stop complaining so much when the thing you like is doing well financially, and enjoy the collectability. It makes people feel good. And if it's possible for you to enjoy your game for cheap while someone else feels good owning something expensive, that's okay. It's very possible that the expensive aspects of the hobby are not for you. And it's actually good to have tiered levels to hobbies. And ultimately it means that your hobby is in a very healthy place, in my opinion. So yeah, it's a balancing act on opinions. You should not spend money, and also other people spending money is good. Whales are good for the game. Maybe that's what they should have been.
Okay. All right, I love it. Benjamin, how can people reach us directly?
Well, I know what you're asking, but the best way is to become a Patreon and hit us up on Discord.
That is true.
But assuming that they don't want to do that for whatever reason, we're the premium version of their hobby, and they can't they don't want to pay the $4 a month for Patreon. Then they can also email us at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com.
Okay, the free version of our podcast contacting is mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. Randy, what's the premium expensive version of this podcast?
That will always be patreon.com/mymythicalmeta.
Thank you guys for listening, and Benjamin, Derek, Randy, thank you guys for being my great friends. Adios.
Bye.
Later, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.